Hello, I'm Llewellyn King, the host of MECFS Alert on YouTube, a program that I developed in collaboration with my colleague and friend Deborah Woroff in New York City. We are out here in California, Torrance, California, adjacent to Los Angeles, with the iconic Dr. John Chia, who has had extraordinary success in his own family treating CFS. His son was afflicted and is now functioning 100%. Dr. Chia, nice to have you on the broadcast again. I want to know about contagion and infection. And for a layman, it's very confusing. We have individual cases, the people who just get it. Then we have these clusters. Incline Village, Nevada, up in Western New York State, once upon a time at the Royal Free Hospital in London, 1955, I think. So that suggests contagion or an environmental impact. Other cases where people get it out of seemingly thin air, and then there are families where people in families do get, children do get it from parents and vice versa, I've heard of. Mm-hmm. And you have families, I know one where two wonderful boys, and they're so careful because the father, he's fairly active in this community, Robert Miller, has CFS and is very reluctant, very worried that they could infect their wonderful children. What do you feel about a contagion, infection, clusters, the whole mystery of how people get this disease?
I think these viruses are contagious in the acute phase, in the first 2-3 weeks of illness. That's actually how we see how couples or some family members will come down with it. They may, a next person may come down a little bit later, it may be a few weeks later, but in general they have the same sort of exposures. But as a patient already have chronic fatigue syndrome, there's very little virus shedding in the saliva because no one actually has found it. And also in the, in the stool, things like that. This is where the public health department and many of the researchers have failed to recognize. These viruses are not destructive viruses. If they are destructive viruses, the virus will keep multiplying the cells, break the cells down, become bloodborne. Yes, they can be shedding virus. If you get a needle stick, you'll get infected, like in HIV cases or hepatitis C cases. These guys are stuck inside the cells. They're living happily there. It's our immune system don't like them, right? We like to get rid of them if we all possibly can. But they have a way of surviving in us and multiplying in us. So patients already have chronic diseases are not contagious. There are rare cases, I have heard stories of a person who got sick with a chronic fatigue syndrome in the first 2 years and gave it to two lovers, two women. And that may be why, maybe he was shedding viruses at that time, but usually not in the chronic phases. I don't think it's sexually transmitted. Blood transfusion is a different issue. I don't know it can be transmitted or not.
I know somebody who believes that he got it from blood transfusion. Whether that's so, neither he nor I know that, but he believes it.
It's theoretically possible because we have found the virus in the white blood cell of number of patients. Yeah.
Now, you talk about finding the virus, but one of the things I've been told is that there are no markers. One of the difficulties in diagnosing the disease is that there are no markers. But if you can find the virus, that is a marker. So how do we resolve that?
The virus is a marker. So before HIV was found, the marker was the low CD4 cells, T cells. Well, because Dr. Gottlieb at UCLA developed this type of testing, so he screened these patients, then realized they have an immune deficiency. Well, that categorized those patients. Then they look forward and find out what things will kill the T cells. Some people mistakenly thought Epstein-Barr and CMV could kill T cells. That was the early belief. 1984, 2 laboratories found the same virus, HIV, in the same culture. And at that time, people were dying like flies. This thing killed the T cells. It fit perfectly. That's why that field moved forward. What is stopping this field is the disagreement between investigators. In America, we thought it was Epstein-Barr virus in the 80s because the person who studied it at the NIH was an Epstein-Barr virus expert who asked us, what virus do you think this is? All the time when we presented cases. Unfortunately, the stories that he got was not Epstein-Barr virus. But he treated those patients with intravenous acyclovir, then he figured out that the patient has psychogenic overlay when the placebo-treated patients also improved as much as the drug-treated. That was an unfair assessment. The British guys were working on enteroviruses, but unfortunately, we could not reproduce their results. And so in about 1995, then it's no longer, viruses are no longer thought to be the cause of this. So go chase after the brain. It's all in the head, right? When my son got sick, we repeated all the blood studies the British guys did, and we pretty much came out with the same studies. Then we started looking for where the viruses are. That's actually where the monies are. They're in the tissues. They're buried in there. They're not usually bloodborne. If we find them in the blood, we're very lucky. So we need tissue biopsies. But patients have brain symptoms and heart symptoms and muscle symptoms, don't really like you to take a piece of the brain or a heart or the muscles. So we find it in someplace else that we have easy access to. That's the stomach. We can identify the virus protein, the RNA. We can grow the virus. We can see the virus exists in a double-stranded RNA form, which protects themselves from degradation or destruction. This thing can open up and multiplies. When we take a stomach biopsy, grind it up, inject it into the mice with our immune system, at least 2-3 mice died in 2 weeks. It's clearly pathogenic. Our body says, you can't do that to me, so you fight back. When you fight back, you feel miserable, right? Just like influenza. But influenza is self-limited because our virus does not survive in us usually, and our immune system fought it right, typically. In this case, it's like some people tell you that they are marathon runners, they're under a lot of physical stress, or they're under a tremendous emotional stress that tilt the immune system into the wrong direction. Then you fought it with all the wrong weapons. Therefore, the virus persisted. That's how the disease works. We have all the evidence for this.
I have a lot more questions for you, Doctor, and I'm going to come back for another segment in a few minutes. I've been talking to Dr. John Chia of Torrance, California, one of the major players in the medical side of chasing the evils of the viruses that are probably responsible for chronic fatigue syndrome. We will talk further with Dr. Chia on another broadcast.
If you would like to sponsor MECFS Alert, please contact us at mecfsalert@gmail.com. Help us to help you.